afternoon, investors. Mahindra Finance Investment Solution presents Investment Pe Charcha in 59 minutes, a monthly series of live webinar. Well, my name is Bhavna Bhatia, and I shall be your moderator and host for today. And a warm welcome to all the esteemed investors to the webinar on financial planning, the mantra of wealth creation for the month of July 2021. Well, this is a platform where we would be having industry experts sharing their rich experience and important information related to investments with our esteemed investors every month and addressing the queries from them. Well, we look forward to your active participation in these monthly events. Well, ladies and gentlemen, to start today's proceedings, we have a small AV for you, requesting the technical team to play the AV.
A part of the $19.4 billion Mahindra Group, Mahindra Finance is one of India's leading non-banking finance companies. Over the past 25 years, Mahindra Finance has served over 7.3 million customers and today has presence across the country with a strong network of over 1,350 branches and 21,000 plus employees. While Mahindra Finance started in the vehicle finance domain, over the years we have expanded our portfolio to offer SME finance, personal loans, consumer loans and investment solutions too. The Investment Solutions division of Mahindra Finance distributes various investment products ranging from fixed deposits to bonds and also a plethora of mutual funds of all leading brands. Our Investment Solutions portal is an end-to-end digital platform that comes with a host of useful features and utilizes the best of technology to offer a seamless investment experience to customers. The portal provides transparent risk assessment, real-time customized portfolios, and various tools and dashboards for customers to effortlessly monitor, manage, and grow their investments. It also provides tailor-made solutions based on the unique needs of various customers. So come, start your investment journey with us by visiting investmentsolutions.mahindrafinance.com.
So that was a short and a crisp AV. Well, ladies and gentlemen, and all our esteemed investors, today in 59 minutes, you will get the requisite knowledge on financial planning. In the first 40 minutes, our speakers will talk on the topic, with the last 20 minutes being where our investors, which is all of you, can type in the questions, and the questions would be addressed and answered live, keeping an eye on the time. For today's webinar, Investment Pe Charcha, we have our esteemed speaker, Mr. Rajesh Krishnamurthy. Mr. Rajesh Krishnamurthy is the country head of Financial Planning Standard Board Limited, India License Office. He has a vast experience of over 2 decades in the Indian financial markets, and his experience spans from the field of treasury management, securitization, institutional sales, private wealth management, and has also served on the Securities and Exchange Board of India's working group on investment advisor regulations. Well, he's a licensed international financial analyst charter holder and has been recognized as one of the top 50 financial services marketing professionals in India and honored by the World Banking Financial Services and the Insurance Congress. Well, we're absolutely excited to have him here to listen to him and have an incredible, fruitful, and an insightful session ahead. With this, ladies and gentlemen, I now invite Mr. Rajesh Krishnamurthy to join us on the stage and screen. Thank you so much, sir. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Bhavna. This is really wonderful to be with all of you today evening. Greetings from Mumbai, and wherever you are tuning in from, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Today, I have been tasked with the difficult matter of communicating financial planning and a lot of things surrounding financial planning in less than 25 minutes. I'll try my best, and I'll make sure that we are able to connect it with our day-to-day life as we progress from here. Let me please share my screen to make it easy for you to see through the slides. Okay, here we go. So once again, as I was talking to Sanjay and his colleague Sanket on this matter, while the topic is very clear in the invitation, I was still wondering, how do we fill that dash? What does financial planning really do to somebody? Is it really the mantra of creating wealth? And what is wealth? More philosophical question. And therefore, from that point of view, how do we make sure that by doing certain things, we achieve what we are seeking out to achieve? I always share with my friends, my classmates, when I get an opportunity to speak to them about money matters. And it's not so common to speak to friends about money matters. We have our fun, right? When we catch up with friends. But I do tell them that at the end of the day, all that matters is whether we are able to be, peaceful in our living, happy in the way we approach life, keep a smile on our face. Of course, it's not always easy, but as much as possible, despite being challenged through all these, challenges of the pandemic, maybe something else. So there are always reasons for us to reflect on where we are and ask ourselves this question, are we finding peace in the present state of our mind, of our body? And definitely, with that question, it leads to a lot of people say peace of mind is directly connected to the comfort of money as well. And that's where the wealth comes in. In school, we are taught health is wealth. Sometimes, I am also encouraged to tell that, wealth is health as well. And that comes from the fact that they keep saying, right, you can say you don't need a lot of money, but make sure you have a lot of it before you make that statement. So we have been, in a way, we've been exposed to these kind of conversations in our life, and it's very necessary for us to make sure that we have clarity of mind as we approach an extremely important piece, which is, managing one's money matters. So then, please slice and dice it in a simple way. We have physical health, we have mental health, we have financial health. And of course, a lot of people also now talk about adding the component of spiritual health, and and therefore say that we are holistic in our approach. I would keep aside most of it on spiritualism because that's not the mandate of the evening. But definitely, I need to speak about physical and mental health while we speak about financial health. Before I go forward, you might be thinking, who is Rajesh Krishnamurthy? What is FPSB? I just wanted to quickly tell you that we are a global not-for-profit. All that we focus on is encourage the profession of financial planning. And by doing that, we believe that customers like you, clients like you, get to interact with professionals who uphold a high level of ethics and integrity while they engage with you on many matters connected to money, finance, and your plans for the future. We operate in about 27 countries around the world, and we also administer the examination called the Certified Financial Planner Examination, and that's a mark that you see on my virtual background as well. Having said that, I just wanted to highlight, there are almost 200,000 or 2 lakh in Indian words, people around the world who proudly call themselves a certified financial planner professional. And in India, if you notice, is still a small piece in the whole world. We have, as we speak, we have almost 2,200 certified financial planning professionals. This graph was made for all countries in the month of December. So that's what you get to see. Well, but then that's about us, quick view. But something that we had done across these countries was a survey with investors like you. And what we understood was that one of the most important things that people look for while talking about money matters is, can I really trust the other person with whom I'm sharing this information? And if I can trust the person by sharing this information with him or her, then am I also feeling that, what that person tells me invokes that feeling of trust, which means that if I'm guided to do A, B, C, and D, would I really be able to accept it as saying that, okay, it is in my interest and I need to do it? Much as we would like that to be that way, but the whole world is grappling with the same problem. So I believe, that's the challenge for all of us in the industry, the profession, and particularly, I'm sure Sanjay and his team, one of the most important things that they'll be trying to share with you is why you should be able to have that trust in their capabilities, their skills in telling you what you are expected to do for a better financial future. So, I just wanted to also highlight that whatever are the views that I'm expressing here are personal. It shouldn't be ascribed to my organization. That's a standard disclaimer because we speak from our heart, right? And many times I also gently remind everybody that while we might talk about simple things, it might also be quick for you to do it. It need not necessarily be easy. So that's something that we tend to forget, or we tend to take it for granted. That if it is quick, it will be easy. It would be simple, it would be easy. It need not be. So those are some disclaimers, and I'm sure, as I'm speaking, there would be many things coming up in your mind as to what is he going to talk about. I just wanted to show a few screens that have recently come on TV, and I thought, that kind of, sums up a lot of issues that we are seeing in India. So we are in the midst of a pandemic, and in the midst of a pandemic, what happens is that all around you get to see gloomy messages, you get to see departures of near and dear ones. You also feel, bogged down by a lot of data that talks about costs associated with hospitalization. Even if you had probably taken some insurance, maybe when news like this comes out that claims are not being settled or only 50% of what is being claimed is actually making it through the quality checks of the insurance companies, it just brings us, to a point where, we start feeling stressed. We start losing peace of mind. That's what happens when we get to see this kind of news. But then that brings us to more foundational questions. Are we contributing to this issue? Or are we even not participating in the whole aspect of insuring ourselves and our family? I would be surprised if we don't have, you on the other side. If you didn't have health insurance for your family, I would certainly be surprised. It is necessary. It is not a good to have, but it is a must have. So let's talk about a few of these things. When I talk about life, I generally tell everybody, I try to keep it very simple. You could live, healthy and happy all through without worries. That's like the best way to live. The other probability is that, you have these kind of pandemics, and then suddenly you see that, you thought you would live for 70 years or 80 years, but then pandemic comes in and everything becomes fluid. And as we have seen, near and dear ones, they go. So they don't live, one doesn't live the life expectancy, and that is an abrupt departure. And somewhere in the middle of these two is another possibility that you still exist, you are around, but you do face a lot of challenges. So essentially, if you simplify where life takes us, this is where it goes. It could be 1, 3, or 2 in between, right? I think as we reflect on some of our past, we would see many of our grandparents, or at least people from an earlier generation, saying that, I'm very happy. I've lived, 80, 100 years. One of my very good friends, grandpa, who is also the founder and, seen as uh, the torchbearer of Ayurveda in India, Dr. Warrior. He expired few days ago at the age of 100. He is the founder of Kottakkal, Ayurvedishala in Kerala. I hail from Cochin. So when you look at such eminent people, even at age 100, you would see a charm, some sublime charm on their face. So that generation is a class apart. They say, they've lived healthy and happy also. At the same time, I mean, even with COVID, I have myself, and I'm sharing true life stories. I myself have lost my first cousin, my older brother, who just had my niece there is in her 12th standard. My nephew is in his engineering. So we've had a case of abrupt departure. And in between, which is some issues, and you get to see the person still, I still have many of my friends and their parents who made their trip to the hospital, who have come back, but who are fighting post-COVID issues. I'm talking recent matters so that, it kind of connects to what I'm saying. And such kind of matters happen. Irrespective of pandemic, we get to see all these instances. So then, what should you plan for? Should you as an individual, as a family, should you plan for only living healthy and happy also and feel that, you don't have to bother about anything else? Should you plan for, no, anything could happen. So there is abrupt departure. So I need to do something about it. So what will happen if I am no more tomorrow? Or should you plan for that? No, probably even in the middle, that scenario is very much possible. And therefore, I should plan for that as well. What if there is a financial issue in my family? What if there is a physical issue with me or the breadwinner in my family or breadwinners in my family? And what if there are mental issues that are affecting our family, which can also affect our financial lives? Actually, the answer is that you've got to plan for all three. You can't escape by not, planning for all three. You have to. So that should be our response. We got to plan for all the three scenarios. And when you know that you got to plan for all these three scenarios, I just wanted to bring you to the point that for each of these scenarios, the laps that you run, if you just are familiar with some of the races that we get to see on TV, every time there are a few laps, then the car comes in, it needs some quick change. There are so many people surrounding this vehicle. They have a checklist of things that they got to do. They'll be doing what they have to do, and you're back in the race. So when I look at these things that you get to see in real life, the question that I ask is that for scenario 2, scenario 3, because scenario 1, you don't need any help. You are riding the laps, your fuel is getting filled magically, nothing is happening which is stopping you. You're just going around free and nice. But for 2 and 3, are we prepared? That's the big question. So the news all around, is, that, there is EMIs, there are offers, there is big day sales, independent sale, Republic Day sale. Even when we are at home, we are flooded with, flash, offers and sales. And today with technology, there are a lot of applications that allow you to borrow very quickly. And many a time I see that, people who sport very expensive mobiles actually are sporting mobiles that are, maybe twice or thrice their monthly salary. That's the cost of one mobile that they have in their hand. So what happens is that today we have a lot of things that we are surrounded with, which may be giving us a lot of noises. And it is important, as I say, it's important for you and me to catch the signal. We can't be lost in the noise. And the list goes on. There are a lot of things that you get to see, and this list keeps going on. So then I just wanted you to visualize, financial planning as a pyramid. If you look at financial planning as a pyramid, no pyramid can stand tall if it doesn't have a very solid and broad base. And I'm trying to use metaphors. I'm trying to use visual images so that it can stick to our minds. If you visualize financial planning as a pyramid, you need to have the longest and the most sturdiest base that you could have to support the pyramid. And if you see, the rest of the pyramid gets aligned to the base that you draw. If you make a smaller base, the pyramid is smaller. If you try to make a larger base, the pyramid is larger. So then what is this base of the pyramid? What is it that we need to make sure we have first, and then we work on the second and the third? So if I look at the base of the pyramid, and the way I look at it is, the base is about how do we make sure whatever we do with our money has something that has a foundation to it. And so instead of asking, what do I do with my money, or what do I do if I want more money? How do I make more money? How do I make more returns? We have investment pe charcha, kahan pe invest karenge? That's a big question, right? But that is about making more and more money. But the obvious next question that also comes up is, okay, what if I'm not around? What will happen to my money? Or even if I didn't have money and I borrowed, what will happen to my liabilities? That is also a question that we could ask. But the foundation in all of this is, how do I protect my family and myself? And when I mean my family and me, I mean everything connected to our happy living. So we have assets, we have liabilities. We have cash in the bank. We might have investments in the markets. We might have bought bonds. We might have bought stocks, ETFs, mutual funds, and whatever. These are all assets and liabilities that we have. And for each of that, you need to also make sure you have a line of protection. So there are people to whom I have unfortunately had to have this conversation, saying, Mr. ABC, and when they are classmates, I can take the entire liberty to even scold them. Unusual of me, but then I do. Because I tell somebody then that, what was the point in you telling me 5 days ago that you doubled your stock price from where you bought, but today you see you have 2 of your parents in the ICU and you don't have enough money to pay their bills. This is real life. And this is what I mean where you don't have a foundation. We just came across a case study which we pulled up from Bangalore, which showed that a husband and a wife, they ended up having, one person had a kidney issue, the wife had to take a donor, and the spouse's kidney matched. The entire hospitalization, the kidney transplantation costed them over 42 lakhs. Their health insurance covered them for 25 lakhs. Now you have 17 lakhs to pay in excess. How does a family generate 17 lakhs? A middle income family, because the house that you buy for 40, 50 lakhs, or in Bombay about 1 crore or more, you actually take a loan and you buy it. You can't even sell that house to take that. The first charge goes to the bank. These are the issues, and to come to a realization that, when you don't have these foundations, then everything that you build on top of this at some point becomes meaningless. And which is why I keep reinforcing whenever I have an opportunity that we need to understand that we need to cover these risks. These risks are pertaining to scenario 2 and 3. 3, where you lose life, and 2, where you're still living, but you've had either a disability, a mental or a physical issue, or probably you even have a financial backlash. So what is important is that every family will be able to analyze its own risks. It is, while there is a generic understanding of how it is not common for us to have it all standardized for everybody. you need to understand that every family has these larger risks. Now, specific to you, you got to write it down. You also need to think of, when you make these decisions in life, who else is there connected to your family who knows all this information? So in the context of the pandemic, if I were to tell you, when a family and the entire family goes through COVID related issues, and you have somebody in the family who says bye-bye to this world and goes, the entire family is down. The emotions are down. When you are emotionally strained, what happens is that you are not able to take logical decisions. So, for example, there are people who had life insurance coverage, death coverage on the person who actually died. But the family doesn't know where this insurance policy is kept. They don't know which insurance company. They don't know what is the policy number. They don't know which number to call. So, partially you do what you're supposed to do, maybe. But then you forget to cover the risk of, in such cases, especially in a pandemic, it has taught us a lot of things. Who will back me up? So another action point for you is think of that one person who could back you up and at least give that critical information that can help that person support your family should there be a need. And then let me talk about risk, because everywhere we discuss, even when it is investments, we talk about what's our risk profile. We should diversify our portfolio. We should have asset allocation. We talk about all of these. These are all big words. These are all words you get to hear. These are all words which are connected to the middle of the pyramid. They are not connected to the bottom of the pyramid. Asset allocation, investment, security, shares, ETFs, bonds, return, CRR, all of that is all connected to the middle of the pyramid. What I'm still trying to communicate is that we need to make the bottom of the pyramid strong. Then you proceed to the middle of the pyramid. And when it comes to the bottom of the pyramid, what I wanted to share with you is this something that we don't realize. When we talk about risk and how much risk can we take, a lot of people confuse it by saying, that it is about what I can take, which is my appetite for risk. It's a bit like hunger, right? If I feel very hungry, I say I have a big appetite today. But what is the capacity of your stomach? Even if you have a big appetite and you gulp down lots and lots of food, if it is more than what your stomach can carry, it will bloat up. You will have to immediately go to the restroom. You would have indigestion. You'll have all kinds of problems. So a lot of people confuse your risk appetite to the other two parts, which is you do not have the capacity to take that risk. You might only have so much capacity, like in your stomach. And then finally, we also forget what do we put through our system. Again, I connect to food. Your tea time, so I hope it's okay to talk about food. What's the tolerance? Can you just keep eating a lot of spicy food? Or can you eat a lot of sweet, things? What if you had diabetes? You have an appetite to eat sweets. You have the capacity in your stomach to take the sweets, but you cannot tolerate sweets. Your body cannot because you are diabetic. So when we talk about risk, people forget that risk is a composition of three things. And that's why I thought, Tom and Jerry could be the easiest way to keep that in your mind. Think about the cat. The risk is the mouse. The mouse will never stay in one place. It's always going to be changing. It's always going to be running. And the cat is always trying to catch up, right? So it's always going to change, which means you need to keep asking, do I have the capacity? And capacity to take risk is always understood well by a third party. The appetite is something that you will communicate, you would say. And the tolerance, again, is more scientific in the approach. It is a combination of conversations and a lot of scientific aspects added to it. And then you get to understand your risk profile. Then you know that I am either an aggressive person from a risk profile perspective, I'm conservative, I'm somewhere in the middle. And so every time I take a financial decision, you need to revisit your risk profile. This is also foundational. It applies to any decision on top. And so, quickly to tell you that, if you have liabilities, you need to take liability coverage. If you have a home loan, cover your home loan. If something happens to the borrower of the loan, let that borrower's insurance repay the loan. If you have stood guarantee to a friend who is running a business, for the value of that guarantee, insure your life. So that if something happens either to your friend or to you, and that loan doesn't get repaid, the FD on which you have given your guarantee doesn't become a liability on your family, but it is an asset. It remains an asset. People forget this. And all the time we talk about insurance, I'm sure the team in Mahindra would be able to take you through all this. You have to think of, have you covered all kinds of health matters, including the riders that are very important. And never forget to take a top-up. It's very cheap, very efficient, like the term plan in life insurance. And then what we also forget often is that we have assets, including our mobile phones. We buy expensive mobile phones, we don't insure them. We have gadgets at home, we have electronic items at home, we have jewelry in our locker. We don't insure them. If the bank undergoes a burglary, the jewelry in your locker is gone. The bank will not replace it for you. So if we think that we have taken care of our assets by putting it in a locker, I'm trying to tell you that, the foundation seems to be flawed. The building will crumble. You're supposed to have an insurance policy on that asset. So this is about financial risks. And if we don't take care of this, what happens? We will end up having mental issues. Because then we start becoming aggressive, we start becoming agitated. Sometimes if we lose a lot of money in the market, we also fall into depression. And that's not a great thing to be. And many a time what happens, because of that, you also start manifesting that in your physical body. You don't work out, you don't walk, you become slouched, you start getting issues. So many a times I see that financial issues lead to mental issues, lead to physical issues. So it's important for us to cover. Shouldn't we have a great base? And what we also need to think of is that whenever we are born in this world, we have come with a checkbox in India at least. Whenever we are born whoever is born in India, we have come with a checkbox. The checkbox is we are born interstate. Interstate means if you die after you're born, as and when you die, what happens to your property is defined by the law. It is stated by the law, not by you. So what happens is, if you don't write what we call a will, then anytime anybody who has assets dies, then the law operates. And it is madness for the rest of the people who are there in the family to manage all these matters. And therefore, not writing a will. And I can tell you, every single person I have seen who lost his life during this pandemic, more than 97% have not written a will. More than 97%, which is very bad. And what the Mumbai blasts taught me was that when I had a situation where somebody whom I knew lost both the father and the mother during the bomb blast, there was that's when I learned it the hard way, when I was working on that matter for that family, that unless you write a legal guardianship letter, a minor child in your family, a minor child is somebody who is less than 18 years. Unless you write as father and mother that in the absence of the father and the mother, I appoint, for example, Bhavna Bhatia as the legal guardian for my son, Karthik Krishnamurthy, who is aged 15. Only then will the court or any institution in India accept Bhavna Bhatia as a legal guardian. Even if my parents or my in-laws go and tell the court, I'm the grandparent, give me guardianship, they will only say you can take care if they are benevolent. But legally speaking, you need to have guardianship written. Particularly if there are children or people in your family with special needs, you must have the legal guardianship documented in the portal provided by the central government. These things we don't take care. We get bored with all these discussions. We think that, generating money, investing money in the stock markets, diversifying our assets, having gold, having cash, having, property, having stocks, that's the be all and end all of money matters. Well, yes, you're building the middle of the pyramid. It'll just fall down any day. So diversification is important. I'm not saying it's not important, but what's the point of diversification unless you've built the basics? So I think from that point of view, what you must do is that at least after having known that there is an importance of having a proper financial plan in place, and the foundation of financial planning is covering the risks, you must make sure that you take care of that. You must make sure that, you are going to write a will, and you must also make sure that, you have somebody whom you trust who can take care of all these matters in your absence. And do it now, please. Don't wait for another day. And just so that this is the value of money that is lying in our banks unclaimed. So when I mentioned about interstate, this is what it means. People who die, who don't write exactly what will happen to their money. Relatives are fighting for this money. Nobody can claim this money. That is what you're seeing in front of your screen. Money of people like you and me who have put it in the bank and it's lying with RBI. And just so that you know the amount today, as per the latest RBI report, it is almost 40,000 crores. So this is the world we are living in. This is the country we are living in. 40,000 crores of people's money, people like you and me, lying wasted in the bank just because we don't write nominations correctly, because we haven't written our wills properly, or because we have not informed where is that bank account, how do you operate it, and whom can you get in touch. So the mantra to a happy and peaceful life, the way I look at it is planning for a better future. And in planning for a better future, it cannot happen until you plan well, even from a financial point of view. So thank you so much for giving me your time. I hope I was able to address some core aspects. Back to you, Bhavna.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Krishnamurthy. Thank you for joining us and giving us such valuable advice. I'm sure this is going to go very well with everyone who is attending this valuable session today. So once again, a big, big thank you for sharing information related to investments with our esteemed clients. So ladies and gentlemen, with this, I may now request and welcome Mr. Sanjay Parekh, Head Investment Solutions, Mahindra Finance, to share his views and thoughts. Thank you so much, Mr. Parekh. With this, over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Bhavna. Good evening to everybody. Thanks, Rajesh, for a wonderful session. I think, I have not seen a financial planning session where, you spoke about, the focus was so much on having the basics done properly. We've had such kind of sessions where, people want to know what's the next big stock and what's the next big mutual fund scheme which will give us, fantastic returns. But you're absolutely right that unless you do things which will give you a mental, a peace of mind kind of a behavior, it's nothing, no amount of return can really, give you that kind of thing unless you cover all your risks and make sure that, your family is well protected and that even when you're not around, they are well taken care of. This when you were talking, it reminded me of a story. There was a lady who called me up and, she said that she wanted my advice, and I was surprised because at that point of time, I was in a totally different role. I didn't really have a client-facing role. But then she introduced herself, and she was the daughter of somebody whom I had met almost a very long time back. And she said she had an issue where she had sold some property. And the chartered accountant was telling her, don't show it in your return. It's okay. कुछ नहीं होएगा. जब होएगा तो अब देख लेंगे. So, and she felt a little uncomfortable with that advice. So she called her mother, and her mother said, why don't you speak to Sanjay and see what he's got to say. So she called me up, and then I asked her that, I told her, you sold a property. That's a fact. You have sold it at a profit. That's also a fact. There is a tax payable. That is also a fact. What are you comfortable with? I said, are you happy with living in the uncertainty that one day you will get a notice from the government saying that, you know what, you sold this property and you not showed it in your return. I said, are you going to be comfortable with that kind of a situation? And she said, no, I will not be comfortable. So I said, are you comfortable then paying the tax? Yes, I'm comfortable paying it. I said, then you please go ahead and do it. So as an advisor, our job is to get clients to understand their own situations and their own emotions and their own way of doing things, rather than get influenced by what the advisor is telling them, and not get influenced by an advisor's view on asset allocation or on returns or on whatever. And I've seen it in my father's case and in some other relatives where, even when they are retired, they still have a significant amount of equity. And yeah, I wonder that, who's advising them this kind of thing. But yeah, fantastic. I think it was great to hear you say this. And what I would like to add to you, what you said is that at Mahindra Finance, we at least take care of the financial portion of your investments, and we have recently added insurance to it. So please get in touch with your relationship manager and check with him on all kinds of insurance policies, whether relating to life insurance or health or even property, vehicle, and other general insurance policies. Insurance is very, very important. Don't look at insurance as an investment product, but it's a risk covering tool. And as Rajesh rightly mentioned, that you have to cover all your liabilities. If you're taking a mobile phone on loan, not only do you cover your mobile phone as an asset, but you also cover the loan that you have taken to buy that mobile phone. Of course, I would not recommend taking a loan to buy a mobile phone, but that again is a personal choice of mine. So we have done all of this. If you log on to our investment portal at investmentsolutions.mahindrafinance.com, you should do your risk profile. You should figure out what is your approach to risk. And if you use our bucket investment tab, based on your investment duration, we will offer you, or we will recommend to you, the kind of asset allocation that you should be investing in, and the schemes that should be a part of under each of those asset classes. So do take that time to log in, review your portfolios, complete your risk profile, and explore the bucket investment tab that we have. And after that, if you still have any questions, feel free to write to us on our email ID or call us on our toll-free numbers, or just get in touch with your relationship managers. I think with that, I'm conscious of time. We are at 4:45. So Bhavna, back to you. This is a 59 minutes investment pay charcha, and we are 45 minutes down. So let's maximize the balance 14 minutes and answer any questions that we may have.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Parekh, for that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as Mr. Parekh rightly said, we would now like to open up the Q&A session. Feel free to ask your questions related to investments to Mr. Krishnamurthy and Mr. Parekh, and we will take as many questions as the time permits. However, if the questions aren't answered live, please do share your email ID on the chat so that we shall respond to your query on email. Well, with this, we do have quite a few questions which have come up in the Q&A tab, so I'm going to go ahead and start with that firstly. So Dr. Rajiv Thomas asks in today's session is that, do you require a special financial plan, especially if you have a child with special needs in the family, one that covers their requirements and expenses for life, because they may not be able to earn their livelihood? If so, Do you or Mahindra Finance have services that focus on these financial plans for families with special needs children? Now, that's the first question which has come in.
Okay, Sanjay. Sorry, Bhavna, sir. Sanjay, maybe I could take the first half of it and you could take the rest because that's for you.
Yeah.
I think that's a very, very pertinent question. And one of the most important things that people forget when you have to plan for special needs is that you are actually planning for two generations. While you write a normal financial plan, it is for your generation, for yourself, your family, and you think the rest of it will be taken care by the survivors. But when you actually write a financial plan for somebody who is with a special need, then you are actually trying to make sure that even in your absence, the person who is left behind is also not capable of taking these decisions. So you are actually doing that decision making for him today, which means you are technically writing two generations of financial plan in this case. Sanjay, back to you.
So, to address this query on, it's when you are doing a financial plan, generally one tends to do a financial plan only for oneself, right? And you are not really thinking about, as Rajesh rightly mentioned, about the next generation. I mean, you are thinking about the next generation, but not at least for their entire life. Maybe a part of it till they become adult, and then your thinking is that then they will take care of themselves. But here is a very special situation where you have to ensure and think about that. So yes, there are ways of doing it. You will have to make a very detailed plan, not only for your own self, but also covering the life cycle or the lifestyle of your child. And based on that, a unique financial plan will have to be crafted for your special case, and investments will have to be decided accordingly. So we would request that you get in touch with us, and we can sit down together and come up with such a plan, and then we can recommend the right products for you to ensure that both you as well as your family have a decent standard.
Right. Thank you so much for that. We're quickly keeping in check of the time as well, so I'll quickly go on to the second question. Now, Mr. Venkata Raman S. asks that how to write a will, is it compulsory to register? Now, that's a question which has come in. Since Mr. Krishnamurthy, you did speak about it, would you like to just take forth your view on the same?
Sure. I'll do that quick. It's very easy to write one. You can take a white piece of paper and start writing. You don't need a lawyer. Many a time we think that we need a lawyer to write a will. The second part to it is, can you write it only once in your lifetime? No, you can write it any number of times you want. You can fall in love with your will today. You can destroy it tomorrow and write another one tomorrow. No problem. If you register it with somebody like a court, or you go and get it signed in front of a sub-registrar of assurances, for example, it just gives more, more power to the will, because you have a government servant who is witness to the fact that you've written a will. And last but not the least, what I say is that while it is not mandatory to register, it's your choice. I also say that, just in case people who write this have some kind of physical ailment or a disease that they have, it is always useful to get a confirmation from the family physician, not somebody, not a new doctor, but a family physician who has been seeing you for long, to certify that at the time of writing your will, you are in your full senses and there was nothing wrong with you. So these few checklists are useful. I hope this helps.
Sure. Thank you so much for that. We'll quickly take one more question, which is coming from Rama Seshan, who asked that if it is one given nomination, still, is there any issue for the money reaching the nominated person? There's so much about inheritance and the wills.
It's a good question, Bhavna, and it's useful for all of us to know that a nominee is a caretaker. A nominee is not the authorized, second in line to own that asset. Most of the time, people think by filing and filling a nomination, everything is done. No. Yes, the nominee might get the money in the bank, or the nominee might get the asset for disposal. But the nominee cannot, by himself or herself, decide what they will do with the asset, because if suppose it was interstate death, then the Indian Inheritance Law, the Indian Succession Act, or the Hindu Succession Act, or the Christian Act, whichever religion you are in, whichever act applies to you, that will tell you who are the first tier one owners of that asset, and it has to be distributed between them. Just because you have filled a nomination doesn't mean that only the nominee will get the benefit. That's a wrong way to look at it. It's a misconception. But nomination is useful. I'm not saying it's not useful. It's useful. We should do it. But we should complement it with a will so that you can define what will happen to that money. Nominee will get it and nominee will give it to these three, including that nominee maybe, for example.
Right. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Krishnamurthy. We're taking one more question in the interest of time. Rohan M. asked that many investment managers use psychometric assessment to determine risk tolerance. Is it a good metric to assess financial risk tolerance of a person? I'd like you and Mr. Parekh to take a say on that, if that's okay. Yeah.
Sure. My quick answer would be that yes, and it is equally a science and an art. Could you define the capacity of a stomach just by scanning the stomach? No, it could expand depending on what it is. I have heard my mother say, you have Bhima stomach, sometimes when you're really hungry, your mother would have told you that, but you might be a very short frame, puny person. So it differs from person to person. So definitely, like you said, psychometric is a lot to do with variability. And so there is no exact science to it. But yes, tools are used to assess it. And I'm sure Sanjay can chip in because they are also administering risk profiles. So.
Yeah, so psychometric assessment is just one tool. I think what I would do is I would also look at, because I firmly believe that, actions speak louder than psychometric assessment. So what has the client done so far? If he has invested everything in FDs and suddenly if the psychometric assessment says, no, he can invest, he's a high risk taker, then I would question the conclusion of that, because it is ultimately the answers that you give to those questions and the results will come out of that, right? Yes. So you need to correlate the conclusion of the assessment with what is actually happening on the ground, right? And then have a dialogue with the client to say that, this is what it is saying, but this is what you have actually done in the past. Why have you, given different kinds of answers, and is there a difference in your thinking? And then based on that dialogue, come up with a financial plan which makes sense to the client.
Right, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Well, we still have 6 minutes and I'd need like 30 seconds towards the end, but we're going to go ahead with more questions. Firstly, thank you to all who are sending in so many questions. I'm going to take up one from Malalur S, who asked that senior citizens are affected by FD interest reducing and the debt funds returns also reducing. Where should they invest to earn a decent income? Question to both the gentlemen.
So I had taken this question in the last seminar also. So Rajesh, allow me to go first.
Yes, please. It's yours.
I had told one senior citizen at that time that even when you are 60 or 65 years old, you still have another 10 to 15 years of life left. So if you have that kind of an investment horizon, and as long as you have put away enough money in liquid funds or in debt funds which will last you for the next 4 or 5 years, I think you can increase your risk profile in investments and take an equity exposure. It doesn't mean that just because you're retired, you should go away from equity investments altogether. Yes, as you become older, you keep bringing down your equity investments proportionately, but just shying away, just going to zero as soon as you turn 60 is something that I am not in favor of. And I would say that you should still have a 25-30% equity exposure and then possibly bring it down but again, it's a very, very unique situation for every client, and 25-30% could be 5-10% for some people, it could be 50-60% for some people, and it could be 25-30% for some other people. So again, it depends. Rajesh, over to you.
Yeah, sure. I think there is a lot of profound underlying thoughts in that. I guess it is a problem that everybody is facing. My parents are senior citizens too. Touch wood, they are both here, and they are still trying to make sense of what is happening. Exactly the same question. I guess the obvious two options that are there in front of senior citizens today is the Pradhan Mantri Vaya Vandana Yojana, right? And then you have the senior citizens deposit scheme, a savings scheme. So you have these two schemes, and largely those are the two schemes that are at least giving a decent 7+. PMVVY has about 7.4 today until they change it very soon. I hope it remains. That's one. But I guess from a product point of view, I'm sure Sanjay and his team would be able to suggest. But I probably want to go into the philosophical aspect there. I guess what is most important is that, yes, interest earnings reducing is on one side. The other side to look at is, are your needs also reducing, or are they increasing? And is the inflation increasing or reducing? That is also very important to look at. And therefore, it should be seen as a combination of multiple matters rather than in isolation to take decisions on this. And of course, for asset allocation, Sanjay already gave his perspectives. It's again person dependent. But I think instead of only, sorry to say, but the fear of missing out should not drive any senior citizen to go and take an unwanted risk. That is very important to note as well. Because everybody around says, I doubled, I tripled, I did this, I did that. And then suddenly you say, hey, my FD is also not generating enough. I will also give it a shot. That is the fear of missing out. Let us not please fall into that trap. That's the only thing I would like to say.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Well, in interest of time, we're just going to be taking up one question. But for all those who've asked us the questions, do not worry. There's a toll-free number. You can visit the website. And also, we'd love to get in touch with you with your email IDs, which you've provided. So quickly, the last question is from Animesh Pandey, who asked that what is the best way to cover the risk of higher education loan in case of spread of new variants and job loss in developed economies? Now, that's something, of course, pertaining to the current situation. I'd like both our esteemed speakers to have their take on the same.
Okay. Sanjay, may I go first then?
Yes, please.
Okay. We'll save the best for last. Well, it's a very, very good question. Covering the education loan is, because education itself is expensive overseas. Even within India, some of the newer universities, more, with liberal arts and that kind of solutions that are there for students also end up, raking up bills of around 25 to 30 lakhs to do a course. So, if it is even medicine here in India, I see that, at least there is a crore if you are not in, in the list, if you're going for any quotas. So which means that, education is expensive. Now, when you take an education loan, maybe the loan is given to you for your education, but there is always somebody who is guaranteeing that loan, somebody who is underwriting that loan, somebody who is a surety to that. I think that person should definitely be taking a risk cover to the extent of that loan. I don't think job losses, etc., there are any specific insurances overseas because that's beyond my mandate. But what I can certainly say is that there is always which is part of the plan, right? When you write a financial plan, if you foresee that there could be contingencies like job losses, no income for one year, 2 years after you finish studying, then you got to plan yourself in such a way. So maybe you may not go and pick up a 30 lakh course. If you think that you have a risk of not getting a job for 2 years, maybe you will agree to go for a 20 lakh course. So it should not become an afterthought. It should be pre-planned. Yeah.
Excellent. Mr. Parekh, any views on the same? And post that, then we can conclude. Over to you, Mr. Parekh.
Yeah, more thought has to be put into what kind of course you want to do, what are the fees for that course, and what kind of jobs do you get after that course, and is that kind of industry where you are looking to get employed, does it get impacted by the cyclical ups and downs in the global industry or in the Indian industry? So that is the kind of analysis that one should be doing. And for this, you would not expect a student to really have that kind of an understanding and that kind of experience. So the ideal thing would be to, and because of the internet, a lot of information is available online. So please do your research and then take a decision on, because it's the same thing with investments, right? It's an investment that you're doing. Instead of investing in the shares of a company or giving in the FD of a company, you are investing in your own self. And unless you do your research as to what kind of is the industry growing, because there is a whole research which investment analysts do when they invest, is they look at the whole life cycle of the industry, then they look at the life cycle of the company. And a very good example is the Zomato IPO that is going on, and it's still a loss-making company, but everyone says that this is like a pie in the sky in the future, तो कुछ तो निकलेगा इसमें से, तो देखते हैं सोचते हैं. But you cannot take that kind of a risk. You can take a risk with a small amount of investment, but you should not do it with such with a thing like your career.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Parekh and Mr. Krishnamurthy, for your valuable time. Indeed, was an excellent Q&A round, and I'm sure a lot of our esteemed investors learned a lot from it. Thank you once again.
Very kind of you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rajesh, for coming and sharing your views with us here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it definitely was a great live webinar today on financial planning, the mantra of wealth creation by Mahindra Finance Investment Solutions. We would request everyone to stay safe in the times of COVID-19, mask up when needed, and regularly sanitize your hands and belongings. Do get vaccinated, as it is the ultimate tool of fighting this virus. Well, we hope these 59 minutes have been fruitful, and we shall be in touch with all of you, and we look forward to having you all in another upcoming webinar in our upcoming months. Well, this is me, Bhavna Bhatia, on behalf of Mahindra Finance, signing off for the day. Thank you for joining us.